How covert narcissists destroy you with kindness. The most dangerous narcissist you will ever encounter will never raise their voice at you. They will never call you names. They will never make an obvious threat. They will never do anything that a reasonable person standing in the room would identify as abuse. What they will do is be kind to you in ways that slowly, systematically, and with surgical precision dismantle every belief you have in your own worth, your own perception, and your own right to exist as a full human being. And when it is over, you will not blame them. You will blame yourself. The covert narcissist is the most underdiagnosed and most damaging personality type in the dark psychology spectrum. And the reason they go undetected is the reason they are so effective. They do not look like a narcissist, they look like a saint. Here is why this is more dangerous than any other form of psychological manipulation. Every other form of abuse leaves a mark you can point to, a raised voice, a specific cruel statement, something that, when you describe it to someone else, produces recognition and concern. The covert narcissist leaves nothing you can point to. Every interaction examined in isolation looks like care, like generosity, like devotion. It is only the cumulative effect across months and years that reveals the damage. And by the time that damage is visible, it has been attributed to everything except its actual source. Your depression, your anxiety, your low self-esteem, your inability to appreciate what you have. All of it is landing on you. None of it is landing where it belongs. Here are the 5 methods covert narcissists use to destroy with kindness. The first method is martyrdom as manipulation. The covert narcissist does everything for you, and they make sure you know it. Not through direct statements of resentment, through sighs, through the specific exhaustion they display after doing something for you, through the way they describe their sacrifices to others in your presence, with a humility that somehow always ensures you are aware of the full cost. Every kindness comes with an invisible invoice, not presented directly, never stated, but accumulated in a ledger. You are increasingly aware that it exists even though you have never seen it. Over time, you stop asking for things, not because you were told not to, because asking activates the ledger, and the weight of their kindness becomes heavier than whatever you needed. You shrink your needs to avoid the cost of having them met. The second method is concern as control. The covert narcissist expresses concern for you constantly, about your health, your choices, your relationships, your career decisions, your appearance, your emotional state. The concern sounds like love. It sounds like the kind of deep attentiveness that most people spend their whole lives wanting from someone. What it is doing is creating a surveillance architecture framed as care. Every concern expressed is also an assessment delivered. You are not well enough, not making good enough choices, not managing well enough. And because it arrives wrapped in concern rather than criticism, you cannot push back against it without appearing to reject their love, to be ungrateful for their care. The message is absorbed. The messenger escapes accountability entirely. The third method is passive suffering. The covert narcissist never tells you directly that you have done something wrong. They suffer visibly and wait for you to notice and repair it. The withdrawal of warmth, the quiet that descends after you have said or done something they disapprove of. The specific quality of their sadness makes it unmistakably clear that you are its cause without them ever saying so directly. This is the silent treatment evolved into an art form. Because, unlike the obvious silent treatment, the covert narcissist's passive suffering comes packaged as emotional sensitivity rather than punishment. You apologize, you adjust, you repair, and they accept your repair with quiet graciousness that somehow makes you feel grateful to be allowed to fix damage you are not sure you caused. The fourth method is weaponized humility. The covert narcissist presents as deeply humble. They do not take credit. They deflect praise. They position themselves as struggling and imperfect in ways that invite your reassurance and your support. What this humility is doing is extracting supply through a different mechanism than the overt narcissist uses. Where the overt narcissist demands admiration, the covert narcissist engineers it. By presenting as humble, they create a dynamic where you are constantly reassuring them of their value. All of that reassurance flows toward them, and none of it creates a reciprocal obligation to reassure you in return. And you, somewhere deep in the relationship, have stopped being sure that you deserve what you have been freely giving them. The fifth method is the invisible standard. The covert narcissist holds you to a standard they have never articulated. You discover the standard when you fail to meet it, through passive suffering, through the withdrawal, through the specific quality of their disappointment. But because the standard was never stated, you cannot argue against it. You can only experience the consequence of having failed a test you did not know you were taking. Over time, you become hypervigilant. You constantly monitor their emotional state for early signals of an approaching disappointment. You start preemptively adjusting your behavior to prevent consequences you cannot predict with precision. This hypervigilance is exhausting, and it is the exhaustion that accumulates into the damage that eventually surfaces as depression, anxiety, and a persistent sense that you are fundamentally failing at something you cannot name. Here is how to recognize a covert narcissist in your life right now. You feel consistently grateful to them in ways that seem slightly disproportionate to what they have actually done. You find yourself explaining their feelings to others and defending their behavior even when part of you questions it. Your needs feel like an imposition in ways they never did before this relationship. You frequently apologize without being clear about exactly what you did wrong. And you have become significantly more anxious and less confident since this person became central to your life. 3 or more of those are a profile. Here are 3 concrete steps. Map 1 week of interactions against a single question. After each significant interaction with this person, ask yourself this: do I feel more like myself or less like myself after spending time with them? Document the answer every day for 7 days. The pattern will be unmistakable. Say no to one small thing this week, not a confrontation, a small, low-stakes no. Observe the response. The passive suffering of a covert narcissist in response to a small no is diagnostic. The response to a minor boundary is disproportionate in ways that, if you are watching for it, you cannot miss. Tell someone outside the relationship one thing you have never said out loud. Not everything. One thing. The act of saying it outside the relationship to someone whose perception of you is not filtered through the covert narcissist's narrative begins the process of reality testing. That is where recovery starts. The next video in this series reveals something that directly connects to what you just learned. The hidden motive behind generosity feels slightly wrong. If someone in your life has always been generous in ways that leave you feeling indebted rather than grateful, the next video will name exactly what is happening. Watch the full series in order. The playlist is linked in the description. Every video builds on the last. Click the next one now. Drop one word in the comments that describes how a relationship like this has made you feel. One word. I read every single one.